So you're planning a trip to South Korea, and it can feel like you're trying to solve this massive, high-stakes puzzle, completely blindfolded. You've got airports to juggle, high-speed trains to figure out, and a schedule that honestly feels like it could just collapse at any second. Well, in this explainer, we're going to take all that stress and turn it into a simple, smart plan.
You know, this quote really hits home. You can be a totally seasoned traveler, someone who's flown all over the world. But South Korea's logistics, they can still catch you off guard. One little mistake, especially right at the airport, can trigger this domino effect that messes with your whole trip.
But here's the good news, right? All that potential stress, it almost always boils down to just a handful of really common and totally preventable mistakes. You don't have to be some kind of travel wizard to get this right. You just need to know where the traps are hidden before you get there.
And that's exactly what this is. It's your shortcut. We're going to cut through all the noise by focusing on just 3 key decisions. I mean it. Get these 3 things right, and you've built yourself a solid, stress-free foundation for your entire adventure.
Okay, let's dive right into the first big one, the decision that trips up so many travelers from the get-go, the Seoul airport puzzle. Which one should you use and when?
First up, you've got Incheon, airport code ICN. Think of this as the grand front door to South Korea for pretty much the entire world. If you're flying in from Europe or the Americas or anywhere outside of Asia, this is almost definitely where you're going to land. It's huge, it's super modern, and it's a good ways outside the city. And then you've got Gimpo, or GMP. Now this is Seoul's other airport. It's way closer to the city, and its main job is to be the domestic workhorse. It handles a crazy amount of flights within Korea, especially on those super popular routes down to Busan or over to the beautiful Jeju Island. Okay, now this is the crucial piece of info that so many people miss. Getting from Incheon to Gimpo isn't just some quick little shuttle bus ride. Nope. When you actually factor in getting through immigration, waiting for your bags, finding the right train, riding it, and then going through security all over again at Gimpo, you're looking at a real-world transfer time of an hour to an hour and a half. Easy. And that brings us to the most important takeaway for when you arrive. Listen, after a 13-hour flight, the absolute last thing you need is some frantic, movie-style dash across town to catch another flight. You want your first connection to be boring. Seriously, prioritize simplicity, give yourself tons of buffer time. Your future jet-lag self is going to thank you. So, that airport puzzle leads us straight into our next big choice. You've made it to Seoul, awesome. Now how are you getting to South Korea's second biggest city, Busan? You've basically got 2 fantastic options, hopping on a plane or taking the legendary KTX high-speed train. Before we even compare them, we have to get our heads straight about one thing. A 1-hour flight sounds way faster than a 2.5-hour train ride, doesn't it? But that's just brochure talk. The only number that actually matters is your total travel time, from the door of your hotel in Seoul to the door of your hotel in Busan. And this really lays out the choice perfectly. See, it's not about which one is better overall. It's about which one is better for you in your specific situation. Flying can make a ton of sense if you're already at Gimpo making a connection, or if you snag a really cheap flight. But honestly, for most people, most of the time, the KTX train is the hands-down winner. You just skip all the airport hassle and go from city center to city center. It's so much simpler.
All right, on to our third and final big decision, avoiding the Jeju Island itinerary trap. So many people want to visit this gorgeous island, and for good reason. But if you plan it inefficiently, you can add a massive amount of backtracking and wasted airport time to your trip.
And this shows the difference so clearly. On the one hand, you've got the zigzag trap. This is where you go from Seoul down to Busan, only to fly all the way back to Seoul just to get to Jeju. It's a huge waste of a travel day. The smart move is the loop. Fly from Seoul to Jeju, and then fly from Jeju straight to Busan. It's simple, it's efficient, and there's zero backtracking. So, the pro move here is to think in a straight line. An open-jaw ticket is your absolute best friend. That's where you fly into one city, like Seoul, and fly home from another, like Busan. This little strategy lets you see way more of the country with way less time stuck in transit. It turns Jeju into a relaxing stop on your journey, not just another logistical headache. Okay, so we've made our 3 big decisions. Now let's zoom in on a couple of quick, practical checks you can do right now that will save you from some of the most common and annoying travel headaches. Let's start with a question that nobody enjoys answering at the check-in counter. That super generous baggage allowance you got on your big international flight? Yeah, that often does not carry over to the separate domestic ticket you bought. So you can use this as a quick little predictor. Just ask yourself, are you flying a low-cost carrier for that domestic leg? is your checked bag tipping the scales over 15 or 20 kilos? Did you book it with a totally different airline than your long-haul flight? If you're nodding your head yes to a couple of those, you should probably just go ahead and budget for an extra fee. It's a small thing, but knowing in advance saves you a ton of frustration.
And this all points to a golden rule of smart travel, especially when you're dealing with separate tickets that aren't connected. Building extra time into your schedule, that's your insurance policy. It is always, always cheaper to be bored for an extra hour at the airport than it is to buy a brand new last-minute ticket because you missed your flight.
Speaking of insurance, this little checklist helps you figure out just how much risk you're personally carrying. I mean, if your flights are on separate tickets and you don't have a travel insurance policy that specifically covers missed connections, then guess what? You are your own safety net. And if that's the case, then building in really big time buffers between flights isn't just a good idea, it's non-negotiable.
All right, let's put all these pieces together. We've looked at the big picture decisions and we've drilled down into the small details. So how do we combine all of this into an itinerary that's actually, sane?
It really boils down to the simple 3-step action plan. Number 1, plan your route like a loop, not a zigzag, to avoid that painful backtracking. Number 2, think of the KTX train as your secret weapon, your reliable reset button for any schedule that feels too tight. And 3, lock in those big decisions early, train or plane, Jeju or not Jeju, and then let all the smaller details fall into place around them.
And at the end of the day, this is probably the most important thing to remember. The goal here isn't to create some perfect, color-coded, minute-by-minute spreadsheet. It's to build a plan that's resilient, one that has buffers built in, that respects your energy levels, and that won't completely fall apart if one little thing goes wrong.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. As you look at your own plans, what's the one smart decision you can make right now to make sure your trip is remembered for the amazing food and incredible sights and not for a frantic, stressful race through an airport?